We've all felt it at some point, a strange sensation, a fleeting thought, a sudden shiver that runs down your spine. Sometimes, reality seems to bend in ways we can't explain. Could it be that something beyond the physical world is trying to communicate with us? Today, we're going to dive deep into the signs that a spirit might be trying to reach you. You see, the world we live in is made up of far more than what our five senses can perceive. We're surrounded by energies, vibrations, and entities that exist beyond the scope of our everyday awareness. But just because we can't see them doesn't mean they're not there. In fact, these unseen forces might be trying to send you a message right now. They might be trying to guide you, warn you, or even offer you insight into a deeper purpose in life. The question is, are you paying attention? I want you to think about the last time something odd happened, something you couldn't quite explain. Maybe it was a dream that felt more real than reality. Maybe it was a sudden, overwhelming emotion that didn't seem to have a source. Or maybe, just maybe, you felt the presence of someone or something that wasn't physically there. What if that wasn't just a coincidence? What if that was a spirit trying to reach out to you?
Click subscribe to this channel to get more profound spiritual lessons.
A lot of people dismiss these experiences as nothing more than their imagination. But what if we're dismissing the very tools that could help us understand the spiritual world? What if, in our haste to label everything as rational, we're missing the bigger picture? You see, spirits don't communicate in the ways we're used to. They're not going to send you a text message or knock on your front door. Their language is subtle, often requiring us to quiet our minds and open our hearts to truly hear them. But how do you know when a spirit is trying to reach you? How can you tell the difference between a random event and a genuine spiritual message? The truth is, the signs are all around us. We just need to learn how to recognize them. And that's exactly what we're going to explore today. First, let's talk about one of the most common signs, dreams. Have you ever had a dream where someone you knew, maybe someone who's passed away, appears and talks to you? And not just a normal dream, but one that feels incredibly vivid, almost like it's happening in real time? This is one of the most powerful ways spirits communicate. Dreams are a direct line between the conscious and the subconscious, and it's in this liminal space that spirits can often reach us. They might deliver messages through symbols, or they might even speak to us directly. But here's the key: you have to pay attention to how the dream makes you feel. Does it leave you with a sense of peace or urgency? Does it feel like a warning or a reassurance? These emotional cues are often the spirit's way of guiding you toward understanding their message. But dreams aren't the only way spirits try to communicate. Another sign you might notice is synchronicities. Have you ever experienced a moment where everything seems to align in a way that's almost too perfect? You might call it a coincidence, but I urge you to reconsider. Synchronicities are moments when the universe seems to be speaking directly to you, arranging events, people, and circumstances in such a way that they form a clear message. For example, you might be thinking about a loved one who's passed away, and suddenly their favorite song comes on the radio. Or maybe you're struggling with a decision, and you keep seeing the same number or symbol in random places. These moments aren't random, they're the universe's way of communicating with you. But again, you have to be open to seeing the pattern. You have to be willing to ask yourself, what is the universe trying to tell me? The third sign we'll discuss is physical sensations. Have you ever felt a sudden chill in a room, even though the temperature hasn't changed? Or maybe you felt a gentle touch or a warmth that seems to come out of nowhere. These are often signs that a spirit is nearby. Spirits don't have physical forms like we do, but they can manipulate energy in ways that we can perceive. A cold spot, a static charge in the air, or even a feeling of being watched, these are all common signs that a spirit is trying to make its presence known. And while it might seem scary at first, it's important to remember that most spirits aren't here to harm us. They're here to guide us, to offer us insight, or even just to let us know that we're not alone. But here's where things get tricky. Not all spirits have good intentions. Some spirits might be lost, confused, or even malevolent. So how do you tell the difference? This is where your intuition comes into play. You have to trust your gut. If a spirit's presence feels comforting, peaceful, or familiar, it's likely a benevolent entity. But if you feel a sense of fear, dread, or unease, it's possible that the spirit is not someone or something you want to engage with. The key is to remain grounded, protect your energy, and set clear boundaries. Now, I want to ask you something. When was the last time you truly trusted your intuition? When was the last time you listened to that quiet voice inside you, instead of brushing it off as irrational? We live in a world that teaches us to value logic and reason above all else, but in doing so, we often disconnect from our inner knowing. What if I told you that your intuition is the bridge between the physical and spiritual realms? What if, by tuning into your intuition, you could start to recognize the signs that a spirit is trying to reach you? Another sign that a spirit might be trying to communicate with you is electronic disturbances. Have you ever noticed that your phone, computer, or TV glitches at the most inconvenient times? Or maybe lights in your house flicker for no apparent reason? While it's easy to dismiss these things as technical issues, there's often more to it than meets the eye. Spirits are made of energy, and they can sometimes interfere with electronic devices in an attempt to get your attention. This is especially true if the disturbance happens repeatedly or in conjunction with other signs, like feeling a presence or experiencing a synchronicity. So the next time your phone suddenly dies, or your TV turns on by itself, take a moment to consider whether a spirit might be trying to reach you. And then there's the feeling of being watched. Have you ever been alone in a room, but felt like someone or something was there with you? It's an eerie feeling, isn't it? But this sensation isn't always a cause for alarm. In fact, it's often a sign that a spirit is nearby. Spirits exist in a different dimension, but they can sometimes overlap with our reality, especially if they have a message to deliver. The feeling of being watched is their way of letting you know they're present. But here's the interesting part. The more you acknowledge the presence, the stronger the connection becomes. Spirits feed off our attention, and the more open you are to their presence, the easier it will be for them to communicate with you. The next sign we'll explore is finding objects in strange places. Have you ever lost something, only to find it later in a place you know you didn't leave it? Or maybe you've discovered a random object like a feather, a coin, or a piece of jewelry that seems to appear out of nowhere. This is a classic way that spirits make their presence known. They can manipulate objects in subtle ways, moving things around or placing them in your path as a way of getting your attention. These objects often hold symbolic meaning, and it's up to you to decipher what they represent. So the next time you find something in an unexpected place, ask yourself, what is the message here? Now that we've explored some of the more obvious signs a spirit might be trying to reach you, let's go even deeper. You see, the spiritual world isn't just some far-off realm that we occasionally tap into. It's woven into the very fabric of our reality. Spirits exist all around us, influencing our thoughts, emotions, and even the energy of the spaces we inhabit. But this influence is often subtle, so subtle that we miss it unless we're paying close attention. So let's dive into one of the most overlooked signs: energetic shifts in your environment. Have you ever walked into a room and felt an immediate change in the atmosphere? Maybe the air feels thick and heavy, or conversely, light and uplifting. This isn't just your imagination, it's the energy of the space, and more often than not, it's influenced by spiritual presences. Spirits, like all beings, are made of energy, and when they're nearby, they can shift the energetic vibration of a room. Think about it. Have you ever been in a place that made you feel inexplicably drained or uneasy, only to later discover that something traumatic or significant happened there? Or maybe you felt an overwhelming sense of peace wash over you in a sacred space, like a temple or a quiet corner of nature. These shifts in energy aren't random, they're the result of spiritual forces at play. And sometimes these forces are trying to communicate with you. But here's where it gets interesting. You can influence this energy too. Just as spirits can affect the energy of a room, so can you. Your thoughts, emotions, and intentions all carry a vibrational frequency that interacts with the spiritual world. If you're feeling anxious, fearful, or angry, you might attract lower vibrational entities, spirits that feed off negativity. But if you're calm, centered, and open-hearted, you'll attract higher vibrational beings, spirits that are here to guide and support you. So, the next time you feel an energetic shift in a space, ask yourself, what kind of energy am I bringing into this moment? And what kind of spirits might be responding to that energy? This leads us to another important sign: emotional fluctuations that seem to come out of nowhere. Have you ever been going about your day feeling perfectly fine, when suddenly, out of the blue, you're hit with a wave of sadness, fear, or even joy? While it's easy to dismiss these emotional shifts as just a mood swing, they're often much more than that. Spirits can influence our emotions, especially if they're trying to send a message. If you suddenly feel overwhelmingly sad, it could be a sign that a spirit is trying to communicate unresolved grief or pain. On the other hand, if you're filled with an unexpected sense of peace or joy, it could be a spirit offering comfort or reassurance. But how do you distinguish between your own emotions and those influenced by a spirit? The key is to tune into the source of the emotion. Does the feeling seem to come from within you, or does it feel like it's being projected onto you from an external source? If it feels external, there's a good chance it's a spirit trying to make contact. And once you recognize this, you can begin to engage with the emotion rather than resist it. Ask yourself, what is this feeling trying to tell me? What message does this spirit want me to understand? Now let's talk about something that might surprise you: unexplained sounds. Have you ever heard a whisper, a knock, or even a voice only to realize you're completely alone? These sounds can be startling, but they're actually one of the most common ways that spirits try to get our attention. When a spirit is nearby, they can manipulate sound waves in subtle ways, creating noises that catch our attention. It might be a soft whisper in your ear, a tapping on the wall, or even the sound of footsteps in an empty hallway. These sounds are often brief and fleeting, but they serve as a powerful reminder that we're not alone. The key here is to remain calm and open. If you hear an unexplained sound, don't immediately assume it's a figment of your imagination or something to be feared. Instead, pause and ask yourself, could this be a spirit trying to communicate with me? What might they be trying to say? Sometimes all a spirit needs is acknowledgement, a simple recognition that they're there. Once you acknowledge their presence, the communication can become clearer. Now, I know what you're thinking. What if these signs are just coincidences? It's easy to dismiss the little things like a strange sound, a sudden emotion, or a flickering light as mere happenstance. But here's the deeper question: how many coincidences are you willing to overlook before you start to see a pattern? At what point do these signs become too frequent, too specific to be random? The truth is, once you open yourself up to the possibility that spirits are trying to reach you, the signs will become more apparent. The universe has a way of amplifying what we focus on, and when you start paying attention to the spiritual world, it starts paying attention to you. This brings us to another powerful sign: animals behaving strangely around you. Have you ever noticed that animals, especially pets, seem to act differently when they're in certain places or around certain people? Animals are incredibly sensitive to spiritual energy. They can see and sense things that we often can't, and they're not bogged down by the same rational filters that we have. So if you notice your pet staring at a seemingly empty corner of the room, barking at nothing, or acting unusually anxious or calm, it could be a sign that they're sensing a spirit. But it's not just pets. Wild animals too can act as messengers from the spiritual world. For example, if you keep seeing the same type of bird, insect, or animal in unusual circumstances, it could be a spirit using that creature to deliver a message. Many cultures believe that certain animals carry specific spiritual meanings, and by paying attention to the animals that cross your path, you might gain insight into the message the spirit is trying to send. Now, this brings us to a deeper question: what is your relationship with the natural world? Do you see animals, plants, and nature as separate from you, or do you recognize them as interconnected parts of the same spiritual web? The more you cultivate a connection with nature, the easier it becomes to recognize the subtle ways that spirits communicate through the natural world. So the next time an animal behaves strangely around you, or you keep seeing the same creature over and over again, take a moment to reflect on the message. What might the spirit be trying to tell you through this animal? Another sign that a spirit might be trying to reach you is feeling sudden changes in house temperature. Have you ever been in a room that suddenly becomes colder, even though the temperature hasn't changed? Or maybe you felt a warm, comforting presence when you're feeling down. These temperature shifts are often a direct sign of a spirit's presence. Cold spots, in particular, are commonly associated with spirits, especially those that are trying to make their presence known. But warmth can also be a sign, especially if it feels like a gentle embrace or a comforting touch. When you feel a sudden change in temperature, pay attention to how it makes you feel. Does it bring a sense of peace, or does it make you feel uneasy? This emotional response can give you insight into the nature of the spirit. And remember, just because a spirit makes the room feel cold doesn't necessarily mean it's something to fear. Spirits communicate through energy, and temperature is just one of the ways they can manipulate that energy to make their presence known. Finally, let's talk about one of the most profound signs: seeing shadows or apparitions. This is perhaps the most direct way a spirit can manifest, but it's also one of the most startling. Have you ever caught a glimpse of something out of the corner of your eye, something that looks like a shadow or a figure, only to turn and find nothing there? These shadowy figures are often spirits trying to make themselves visible in the physical world. Sometimes they appear as full-bodied apparitions, while other times they're just fleeting glimpses of movement. Seeing a shadow or apparition can be unnerving, but it's important to approach it with curiosity rather than fear. Spirits manifest in this way when they have something important to communicate, and by acknowledging their presence, you can begin to open the line of communication. The key here is to remain calm and centered. If you see a shadow or apparition, ask yourself, what is the spirit trying to show me? What message are they bringing into my life? We've now journeyed through several signs that a spirit might be trying to reach you, from subtle energetic shifts to more tangible experiences like hearing sounds or seeing shadows. But understanding these signs is just the beginning. Now we need to talk about the most important part, how to deepen your awareness and strengthen your connection to the spiritual world. This is where the true transformation happens, where you move from merely recognizing the signs to actively engaging with the spiritual realm in a meaningful and conscious way. First, let's talk about awareness. Our lives are filled with distractions, work, relationships, technology, and the constant noise of modern life. These distractions can cloud our ability to perceive the spiritual world. Spirits often communicate in subtle and quiet ways, and if our minds are constantly racing, we might miss these messages altogether. The first step in strengthening your connection to the spiritual world is to cultivate a sense of stillness and presence. Here's something to think about. When was the last time you were completely present? Not thinking about the past, not worrying about the future, but fully immersed in the moment. Presence is the doorway to the spiritual world. When you're fully present, your mind becomes quiet, and in that quietness, you can start to hear the whispers of the spirit world. This doesn't mean you have to meditate for hours a day, though meditation is a powerful tool. It simply means becoming more mindful in your day-to-day life. Start by paying attention to the small details, the sound of the wind, the way the light filters through the trees, the emotions that arise in your body. Tuning into these subtle sensations, you're training your mind to become more receptive to the subtle messages of spirits. But one of the most powerful ways to strengthen your connection with the spiritual world is through intention. Spirits respond to the energy of our intentions. If you approach the spiritual world with fear, doubt, or skepticism, you'll likely encounter resistance or confusion. But if you approach with an open heart, curiosity, and a genuine desire to connect, the spirits will respond in kind. I think of it like tuning a radio. If you're not on the right frequency, you won't hear the message clearly. But once you align your intention with the frequency of the spiritual world, the communication becomes much clearer. So how do you set an intention to connect with spirits? It's simple, but it requires sincerity. Take a moment to quiet your mind, and then speak your intention either out loud or in your thoughts. You might say something like, "I'm open to receiving messages from the spirit world. I ask for guidance and protection in this journey." The key is to be clear and specific in your intention. If you're seeking guidance, be clear about what kind of guidance you're looking for. If you're seeking protection, ask for protection from higher, benevolent spirits. Spirits, like people, respond to clarity and respect. Another important tool for connecting with spirits is ritual. Throughout history, rituals have been used as a way to bridge the gap between the physical and spiritual worlds. These rituals don't have to be elaborate or ceremonial. They can be as simple as lighting a candle or saying a short prayer. The point of a ritual is to create a sacred space, a moment of intentional focus where you invite the spiritual world into your life. For example, before going to bed, you might create a small ritual where you light a candle and ask for the spirits to communicate with you through your dreams. Or, if you're feeling the presence of a loved one who has passed, you might place a photo of them on a small altar and speak to them, inviting them to share any messages they have for you. The act of creating a ritual signals to the spiritual world that you're paying attention, that you're open, and that you're ready to receive. But here's a question for you to consider. What kind of relationship do you want to have with the spiritual world? Is it one of fear and uncertainty, or one of curiosity and mutual respect? The way you answer this question will shape the kind of experiences you have. If you approach the spiritual world with fear, you might attract spirits that reflect that fear back to you. But if you approach with an open heart and a desire to learn, you'll attract spirits that are here to guide and support you. Another powerful way to deepen your connection with the spiritual world is through journaling. Writing down your thoughts, feelings, and experiences creates a space for reflection and insight. When you start to notice signs that a spirit might be trying to reach you, write them down. Keep track of any synchronicities, dreams, or emotional shifts that feel significant. Over time, you'll start to see patterns that can help you interpret the messages more clearly. For example, let's say you keep seeing the same number everywhere you go on clocks, license plates, receipts. Instead of brushing it off as a coincidence, write it down. Pay attention to what's happening in your life when you see that number. Is it during moments of decision-making or when you're feeling lost? The more you track these signs, the more you'll start to understand the language of the spirits. And remember, spirit communication isn't always literal. Often it's symbolic, so journaling can help you uncover the deeper meaning behind the signs. Let's also discuss dreams again, but in more depth this time. Dreams are one of the most powerful ways spirits can reach us because in dreams, the barriers between the physical and spiritual worlds are thinner. When we're asleep, our logical minds take a back seat, allowing the subconscious to take the wheel. This is why dreams can feel so real and why spirits often choose to communicate through them. If you're serious about deepening your connection with the spiritual world, start keeping a dream journal. As soon as you wake up, write down everything you remember from your dreams, even if it seems nonsensical. Over time, you'll start to notice recurring symbols, themes, or even spirits appearing in your dreams. These patterns are clues that can help you understand what the spirits are trying to communicate. And here's the key: don't just dismiss your dreams as random. Even the most bizarre dream often holds a deeper meaning, especially if it leaves you with a strong emotional impression. But here's where things get even more interesting. You can ask spirits to visit you in your dreams. Before you go to sleep, set an intention to connect with a specific spirit. Whether it's a loved one who has passed, a spirit guide, or even a higher spiritual being. You might say something like, "I invite my spirit guide to visit me in my dreams tonight. Please share any messages or guidance you have for me." Then, as you drift off to sleep, focus on that intention. You might not always receive an immediate answer, but over time you'll start to notice that your dreams become more vivid, more meaningful, and more aligned with the spiritual messages you're seeking. Another important aspect of connecting with the spiritual world is trust. Trust is crucial in any relationship, and the same is true when it comes to spirits. You have to trust not only in the spirits themselves, but also in your ability to perceive and interpret their messages. Doubt and skepticism can create energetic blockages that make it harder for spirits to reach you. But when you trust the process, when you trust that the signs you're seeing are real and not just your imagination, you open the door for even deeper communication. So, how do you build this trust? Start small. When you notice a sign, a synchronicity, a dream, an emotional shift, acknowledge it. Don't brush it off or second-guess yourself. Trust that the sign is real and that it has meaning. Over time, as you start to see more and more signs, your confidence in your ability to connect with the spiritual world will grow. And as your confidence grows, so too will the strength of your connection. Finally, let's talk about protection. As you open yourself up to the spiritual world, it's important to protect your energy. Not all spirits have good intentions, and just as in the physical world, you need to set boundaries. One of the simplest ways to protect your energy is through visualization. Before you engage with the spiritual world, whether through meditation, ritual, or dream work, take a moment to visualize yourself surrounded by a protective light. This light can be any color that feels comforting to you, but white or golden light is often associated with purity and protection. Imagine this light forming a barrier around you, keeping out any negative or lower vibrational energies. You can also call upon protective spirits or guides to watch over you. Simply say a prayer or speak your intention, asking for protection from any harmful or malevolent spirits. Remember, the spiritual world operates on intention, so the clearer you are in your desire for protection, the more effectively that protection will manifest.